I apologize for all. I mean,
we'll
it's
answer
not like
questions faster.
Yeah. We'll try and get to it. Let's see. Will the Proto Belt be nerfed soon? I feel like it's dealing a little too much damage. It's weird that Burst Mage is getting an extra gap closer. We actually haven't found that the Proto Belt or the other Hextech items have made a fantastic splash. I think we're looking at supporting them, but so far, I agree. There's some combos that make it feel really crazy, but
I think we're more worried about Belt than it ended up actually being too. But
yeah, I think so. I don't know how to answer that question. What design decision goes into all the buffs and nerfs at Riot? Many people feel your goal is to make all champs so overpowered that they're balanced. Is it true?
I mean, I hear that. I think that's kind of a neat sound bite. I hear that about various games about, oh, if everything's overpowered, everything's balanced.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah, I mean, we try to get most of our patches. I think we had one recently that was like 80% nerfs or something. We try to get things pretty close to 50-50. We don't want it to just be all one or all the other. But
if you just keep buffing everything, you just kind of have number creep, and everything just gets more powerful over time, which isn't necessarily great, considering there are other things on the map that you interact with that stay static.
Yeah. Okay, follow them. Ask the same question again with not much of a change. The scale of patch updates coinciding with the future generation of League. I'm like, you mean like our children and our children's children? I'm not exactly sure. The dark blue strikes again. I can't read your name, but you say, I know it might be hard to do, but do you guys think that Bard Tunnel will ever be able to go through all champion-made walls? The answer is maybe. There's a clear reason why we don't do it, right? Which is that the walls can despawn kind of at any time, and then the portal is just kind of hanging in the middle of the air, and people can say, well, why don't you just cancel this tunnel? But then it's weird that Bard is like, oh, I make this tunnel to make you feel like you can go through it, and then it despawns almost immediately and like baited you into some weird stuff. So no word saying that we can't do it, but not for right now. Let's see. How about that Z Alt QSS interaction? Hello, please respond.
That was all over Reddit today.
It's I don't really know. That's not really a question.
Well, how about is a question.
Sure. Okay.
How about it? Yes.
Yeah. How do you feel about it? What do you feel about the QSS changes?
I don't have enough context.
Well, I will tell you what I feel about the QSS changes. This is one that I think I'll be the first to tell you, not every single person on the team is like, yes, this is the best decision and it's great. And, I was even accused, I was playing Vladimir and losing a lot, by the way, by people on Twitter who are like, just when you make QSS not remove debuffs, you're playing Vladimir. And I'm like, yeah, and losing like all my LP. Like, it's not the same thing. I think the thing that you guys got to understand about QSS is that I think we understand, on one hand, it was this really important release valve for certain characters when they got too crazy.
Yes.
And we did lose a little bit of that. On the other hand, it was also kind of a hard counter to like any debuff-based champion. And so it's like, if we want to work towards a future where characters like Swain and Malzahar can exist, making QSS not also incidentally like ruin them just because they got it because there's an Amumu on the team, right, or something.
Right.
I think was something that we felt like was really important, especially while we were doing a mage update, right? We don't want to be like, hey guys, play all these mages. By the way, QSS still makes you guys like never worth playing, right? It's hard. I don't want to make it sound as black and white as that, though. I do want to say that we are looking at Fizz, Zed, Trundle, Fiora, any character who has like a really like big debuff or thing that used to be kept in check by QSS. We're really thinking about them. Goal right now is that this actually makes them better and easier to balance in the long term because we don't have to balance like the physical damage Assassin Zed against the magic resist item that you're supposed to know how to buy and then use effectively. That said, Zed changes are coming. They're probably going to be on the lighter side, but we are going to be changing Zed as a result. So that's that. There you go.
Are you guys excited for Overwatch? Asked Dominic something in dark blue. Cardarelli? Yeah, super excited for Overwatch. I got to, play it in early form when I was still at Blizzard, and it's great to like see it like on the verge of release. It's gonna be a great game.
Yeah, it has a giant gorilla, so I'm excited.
With glasses.
That's all you need. If there's a gorilla champion in your game, I will play it. Do you think there's room for more diversity in summoner spell options? What would that look like? Well, we just buffed Ghost and Barrier, and it feels like a lot of the core users of Ghost actually went up pretty big, like significantly so in terms of making them a lot more powerful. Barrier is one I think we'll see slow roll. You might see it more in pro play before you see it adopted, but it being up every time your opponent has Ignite up is like pretty powerful compared to something like Heal. So I think it's really about nudging kind of the other ones up. We've talked about it a ton of times why we think Flash being in the
is
game
always going to be Smite. Obviously, is always going to be around. I think there's probably a couple of summoner spells that maybe we should just cut bait at this point and not try to buff them into awesomeness. But
yeah. Will Galio ever get some love? Yes.
After we fixed Poppy hopefully, and after kind of Yorick, I think Galio is high on the list for. This guy needs something.
There's some cool stuff for Galio, for sure. I'm getting excited. Now that Light's gone, and peeling back to how even Nick Allen did, would you guys be open to naming items or features in the game based after them for how well known they are? Like Light's Banhammer or Nick Allen's Fine. These are tough because I think we said we would do a lot of refer a friend ones, and we're still kind of getting through those, like Zerat Portal and things like that. I think even maybe the GLP, the like Frost Cannon thing, I think that might have been a refer a friend one too.
Really? Yeah, there's still a lot of.
But I think we haven't lost this thing entirely, and I would personally be open to it. But I think we would want to make sure we go through the player ones before we do that.
And then it's the question of like, there's a lot of people at Riot who come and go, and where do we cut the line for, this person was super important and this person was not, so we're not going to honor them somehow. But if we try to honor everyone, I don't know. It feels like a little, what's the word, indulgent maybe, even for guys like Nick and Jeff who had such a huge influence.
This is one I want you to get to, because we usually get some question like this. The Strands of Fate says, hey, Scar/Ghost, I'm going to start up a game design class soon, maybe. Do you guys have any advice for entering into the industry? So I guess this will be the catch-all advice for entering the industry question.
The advice I usually give is, particularly for game design, is try to design something. Some classes now actually have you make a game as part of the curriculum. If you can't do that, try to make a game on your own. You can use, Unity is great for that. If you can't get Unity and you don't feel comfortable doing that, make a board game, make a card game. Just do something that shows that you've gone through the process of ideation, follow through, iterating on things. It really, when you can include that as part of your application, it really gives the designers a way to evaluate, like, this person has some experience, they understand what the workflow is like. It's not all just, hey, I had a crazy idea.
Yeah. Just design things. Start getting your hands dirty. Favorite games outside of League of Legends?
There's a ton. The ones I always include,
I know you're a big Dark Souls player.
Dark Souls, Zelda, XCOM, Doom is back in the public consciousness. Obviously played many hours of World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, Baldur's Gate, Mass Effect, Age of Empires back in the day. Pokemon for you?
Yeah, Pokemon is a big one. I was an ex-pro Pokemon player. I am a competitive level Smash Brothers and Magic the Gathering player. A million games. I'm about to do some personal writing about games that influenced me, but nice. those are the ones that I play currently, and then of course a lot of League. I'm playing Hearthstone, but I'm gonna quit as soon as I get Legend. That's what everyone tells themselves. TD Nintendo X, if that's actually you, Josh. What's up? Thoughts on Elder Dragon? How do you feel about Elder Dragon? Because I've got some thoughts, but I want to hear what you think.
We didn't want, Elder Dragon to back when we did the 5 stacks, there was this fear that, it's just going to be a race to the 5 stacks, and then whoever gets that wins. And then what actually happened is, like, games never even got there. And part of that was intentional because we thought it was just the threat of getting 5 stacks would drive interesting things. So Elder Dragon hopefully is a way to recapture that and still keep Dragon relevant late in the game without it just being, whoever gets it wins.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because 5 Dragons was so rarely in play, but the threat of 5 Dragons was always there.
And that was always the intent, yeah.
But now that Elder Dragon is there, it is always a feasible thing in the game. I find that a lot of games are decided before Elder Dragon comes into play, but I've also found that, like, I've played a lot of games recently in the last 2 days where it's like we're very even. It's very late in the game. Baron is up and Elder Dragon is up, and it's like, do we trade? Which one do we go for? Which one do we think is really important? And I am currently enjoying it. I don't know how incredibly powerful it is, but especially if you're getting absolutely shut out on dragons, it just numerically like blows people out of the water. But I think that ties into our feelings on the old dragon system, right? Which is like, well, if you're getting thoroughly just like obliterated on objective control, like that's just, you got to hold that L. Like that's just how League of Legends is. But I think it's actually, if anything, a little too hard to take, but it seems like it's so variably powerful that I'm fine with that.
I think people are still adjusting to the whole new dragon model.
We've gotten this question a lot, but this is kind of the pick and ban question.
Yeah.
Which is, are there any thoughts on seeing more than 3 bans ever, or changes to the pick and ban?
Yeah, so
system?
actually, we're doing the Ask Riot thing now, and that was one of the first questions I answered that I think we'll see next week.
Hey.
But as a preview for that, we don't think that bans need to scale linearly with number of champions. Like, we don't ever want to get to, there's now 15 bans in the game, because that feels ridiculous. Something we have been talking a little bit about recently is maybe it makes sense to have 1 ban per player. So in other words, everyone gets to kind of ban who they don't want to see in their lane, which would increase the number of bans, but we don't have to like constantly increase bans as we go forward. So that's the thing we're talking about. No idea of when, if ever, that would actually come out.
Yeah, I think the takeaway that you should get from that is that system is under scrutiny.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that we're looking
We are talking about bans, both for pro and for ranked.
22 Awesome Sauce 22 at League of Legends, do you dislike champs being used in other roles like Trundle support?
I think it's awesome when champs get used in other roles. And in fact, the way we try to design now is to say, let's make sure there is one place they can function. Because if you design a champion that has 0 positions to play, that's a pretty shitty champion. But if a champion could be used in multiple positions, that is awesome and desirable, with the caveat that it has to be healthy. Like, if they shut out all the other champions in that lane, which is, happens when you find, I'm going to play this AD champion like some kind of AP mage, or I'm going to play a mage down in support and do shitloads of damage on top of everything else the support's going to do. That's when it tends to shut out other things down there. Yeah. And when push comes to shove, we have to make sure that they at least fill one role in a healthy way, which is often why, even though it's not desirable, we nerf them when they get played in the unpredictable way. Like Talia right now, we're seeing a lot of mid, which you'd expect, and also a lot of support. And I think it's kind of up in the air of, is she going to be in both places? Where is she healthiest? Where do players gravitate to? And that's really fun as developers to sit there and kind of watch the response and watch players kind of solve the puzzle. We give you a playground, and then it's kind of like interesting to see what you do with it.
Yeah, I think Trundle is actually one of my favorite examples of this, because Trundle support and Trundle top lane both do different things for your team and have different focuses in terms of like who they want to ult, who they want to focus in a team fight, what their primary goal is. It's when a champion is played in a separate role and it's like circumventing its weaknesses. It's like, this character goes top because if it goes top, it's broken. It's like, well, all right, well, that's weird, and that's lame. We want to make sure that it kind of works in both cases. Do you have any hints on the next champion? It's coming out after Talia. That's your hint. This will be released after Talia. All right, let's see. Cynical Penguin with a cynical question.
That's a great name.
Yeah. Which champion do you guys regret creating the most?
It's saying regret makes it sound like, we shouldn't have made that champion. I think there are some that had enormous potential that didn't live up to that. Like, I've seen Aatrox mentioned in the stream. I think he seemed so cool. He had a great story, and you just don't see him that much. I think he's a great candidate for some kind of update.
Yeah. And I love Aatrox, but I can agree with that assessment.
Yeah.
My thing, I'll tell anyone this, Callista. I think Callista is a character that could have been so cool, but ended up in this, she's been played in pro a ton, right?
Sure.
But I think it never really felt inspired to me. It was just kind of like, I'm this blue thing hopping around, and then I pull my support to me, right? Like, it didn't feel like we went really hard enough on the, I'm playing with a person, or that part really matters, or it's like her theming is she's like I'm mad and I'm dead, and if you're mad about things too, you can call me over and I'll save you or something. Like, I don't know, just if you're talking about like potential, that's my question, or that's my answer. I think Callista has a lot of wasted potential.
There was one up there about
We've hit the point where we're literally at the top.
Right.
Like, it's
Matthias